Café con Tampa online. Today, we're excited to have Peter Schorsch from Extensive Enterprises, also floridapolitics.com. Peter's spoken to us several times, so I won't make a long introduction. Peter, tell us what's happening in the world of politics now in Florida politics, please.
Well, thank you for having me. I wish I was back over at the Oxford. I miss Gary Dolgan, and I miss that interaction. Florida politics and our team has been really at the forefront on the coverage of the coronavirus pandemic in Florida. Our organization was the first to break the news about coronavirus actually being in Florida, about the 2 cases that were in Manatee County. And from that moment on, I've turned campaign reporters into coronavirus reporters. And so you and I were talking about it, before we came on. The framework of the site has changed. And so now we're talking about coronavirus economics, about the reopening plan. I think the thing that's really cool about Florida politics is that you really get a statewide feel for how the epidemic is hitting Florida. The newspapers or local TV station are going to tell you what's really happening in your neck of the woods, which is great. But I think one of the things that Florida politics gives you a sense of is, how this really is hitting the state in different ways. That Jacksonville is doing okay. The Panhandle is doing okay. South Florida is getting hammered. There's hot spots in different weird places like Liberty County or in nursing homes in Manatee County. And you get a sense of that on floridapolitics.com, which, with the number of reporters, we've actually, where a lot of other organizations have had to, like all the Gannett papers are on furlough, where they're basically at 3/4 strength. We've actually added 2 reporters on top of a lot of other stuff that we've done, freelancers, et cetera. I think we probably increased our capacity by 35, 40% in terms of reporters. Our team has been amazing. They went right from covering the legislative session 6 days a week into really covering coronavirus 7 days a week. And whereas I've seen some other news organizations, they kind of drop off on the weekend. This is not a story that stops because it's Friday at 5 p.m. And so our reporters are still up to date with, the latest case counts, deaths, which beaches are being opened, vacation rental lawsuits, et cetera. And so I feel for the first time in 10 years, like our stuff really, really matters. And that's exciting to us.
How did you come up with the redesign? Other media outlets will bring in Mario Garcia or other.
Wait a second. I think I got some breaking news for us right now. I really do have some good breaking news for you right now.
Winchester Street in downtown Orlando.
I'm listening to
Governor Ron DeSantis as we meet.
All right, all of the barber shops and hair salons and nail salons
get back to work and make some money
are going to be reopening.
Back to work, we want to be safe to continue.
I've just got a note from Shane Strum, Chief of Staff for the governor. He's put out an announcement from the governor.
Safe. I know everyone is happy.
Effective May 11th, you will be able to get a haircut. So starting Monday, our hair will be back to normal. We'll be able to, I don't know what they can do with this or what they can do with that, but they can certainly, manis, pedis, all that is opening back up. So some breaking news that I'm able to report to you right now.
Yeah, thank you for breaking news here with us. I imagine there are going to be enormous lines because everybody can't wait to get their haircut and whatever else now.
I think one of the things you had to do was you still had to tip your barbers and your stylists. And I know I did. I know, like, my stylist, I know she was hurting, and it was like, I didn't pay for the haircut, but I still gave her the tip that she was going to get. And, I did that a lot with other people. I think a lot of people did that. And so hopefully those people will get back to work. I'm so excited. Like, I can't wait to get I need somebody to touch me. I need manicures, pedicures. I need these eyebrows waxed, something. So
have you been to a restaurant yet?
What's that?
Have you been to a restaurant yet?
I haven't been for dine-in service, but we went to we did a lot of cocktails to go. Even if we weren't drinking it, we wanted to support our favorite bartenders. And so we hit Park Shore Grill a lot. We hit Bacchus in downtown St. Petersburg. We hit sea salt.
And you didn't drink them? What did you do? Feed your plants with them?
We just, how many? I don't know how many cocktails to go you're supposed to have, where it's still safe.
Is that why you've been such a prolific writer the last month?
It is absolutely part of the reason why is because it's been more club sodas than it has been dirty martinis.
Hey, by the way, if anybody has any questions, Cafe on Tampa style, you can post them underneath the video feed if you're watching on the phone, or to the right if you're watching on a computer. Well, I was asking you a question about the design of the website. I mean, it looks beautiful, and there's just so much on there that it's hard to decide sometimes what to read. I mean, do you have a way to compare the amount of content you're putting out to other media outlets, and also where did you get the design?
Let me start by saying, so our traffic right now is at 3.5 times the level it is during an election month. So October 2016, or that kind of month, which is usually our busiest as it ebbs and flows. We beat that number by 3.5 times in March and then April. And so we're having election day here every day. And so we needed a site that kind of was able to capture, the statewide scope of everything. And then also, Bill, it's been interesting, and it's kind of sad. People who are unemployed right now, or people who are looking for information, they're going to Google and they're looking for unemployment in Florida, or, jobs in Florida or whatever. And they see the DEO site and it's down or whatever, it's offline. But if you go and you do unemployment in Florida or some of those search terms, you're going to find a Florida politics story because of how ubiquitous that name is, Florida politics. And so we get 50 to 100 emails a day from people. It's not that I want to read one, but it's like, unemployment issues, please help. And if I showed it to you, I don't know if there's anything you can do to help me or any other Floridians story be heard. These aren't the most beautiful letters, but they're heartbreaking. And it's
the status of the website. Is it working now?
It goes off and on for they take it down. There's two theories there. There's one theory, which is, Governor Scott did not want people applying for unemployment. And that's certainly his philosophy. He doesn't believe in long-term unemployment. The other thing is, no system, was built to deal with hundreds of thousands of claims requests at one time. Amazon is barely built for that kind of thing, where it can do, millions of processes at any given moment. And this one was not built for that. And so it isn't that it's not just a clunker. It wasn't built for that in the first place. And so I think you're going to see, yes, in fact, if you go back and look at it, there was no lobbying for that contract. I know the governor has talked about wanting there to be an investigation on that, but it actually, with that contract, it specifically said there could be no contract lobbyists on there. And I've talked to the different firms that were representing Deloitte at the time, and they were really hands off. They did other stuff, but they never got involved with the unemployment system lobbying. So I don't think that there's going to be anything there other than, hey, listen, we paid for a 1-story house. You guys want an apartment complex. It's two totally different kind of build outs.
Hey, we've got our first question here. And if anybody else has a question, please post it underneath. Our mutual friend, Greg Wilson, says, Peter, what are your thoughts on campaign fundraising during a pandemic? I think it's safe to say that both Republicans and Democrats are doing it every day. Is it a bad thing for either side to be trying to raise money, trying to raise funds to pay for their campaign functions, which might include paying consultants or advertising places,
or ads on floridapolitics.com. Number one, I think every consultant should use what's happened here as a story to tell future campaigns, like in 2026, that you never know what is going to happen in an election cycle. And so there's no such thing as starting too early for a candidate. And I can tell you now that because you're a successful candidate, but all all the people that say, oh, don't get into, you want to wait until after Christmas, or you want to wait until, next month or whatever. And you always hear those kind of machinations for people. I think those are out the window for forever. I think that people know, like, if you're going to run for something, there's no better time to announce than now. And there's no better time to start collecting money now, because you never know when a hurricane's going to hit, pandemic's going to hit, terrorist attack is going to happen, and suddenly it's not going to be the right time for fundraising.
So some of these hard hitting emails are still going out. Like, my candidate needs $50, or they're going to have to not be able to pay their cell phone bill. How do you?
I think those are ridiculous. I think people can see right through them. I think people should. A rule of thumb that I would tell a candidate right now is there should not be any. I don't think there should be any low dollar or email fundraising if your state is in a state of emergency. I just think that that's just bad form. And especially that's true if you're a lawmaker. Ron DeSantis only raised $322 last month. And that, I don't even know how he got $322. It just, I've hit Republicans and Democrats on this. There's no appropriate way to raise money on this pandemic. And every time you see a candidate do it, whether it be Jennifer Webb or Margaret Good, or I don't know who the people are, but anytime you send out one of those letters, and I think they're in very poor form, and I'm going to continue to hit on them. And I know that sucks for consultants and digital ad sellers, but it's just when you've got 26 million Americans, out of work. I don't know how you can ask low dollar donors for money, because most of those people that you're hitting, I guarantee you, are probably hard up right now.
Yeah. I switched my background because you switched.
All right.
Are you a DC person or a Marvel person?
I'm both, but I love Batman. Batman's my number one. And so I loved the DC ones. I'm going to go all right, you keep talking. Go ahead. What's your next?
We just went off course there. So on politics, is it too early? You talk about winners and losers after different campaigns and after different events happen. Is it too soon for you to start predicting what might happen in the governor's race? Do you see, I think some of the polling you did showed maybe Mayor Castor and Mayor Kreisman moving up, and some other leaders in the state. Any chance that someone would try to run against the governor in 2 years, or do you think it will have to be 6?
I've got a new theory that I'm just rolling out right now for you. I talked to a couple of, I would say, medium level but well-connected Republicans, and there's a theory being floated around right now. Ron DeSantis doesn't run for re-election. I'll save this video recording in case that does come true. But you saw a little hint of what was going on today in Politico Playbook. They were talking about how connected he was to Brad Parscale. He's definitely going to run for president in 2024. He's just absolutely going to run for president, no matter Democrat is elected, if it's Biden or if it's Trump. He runs as Trump's heir apparent if Trump is reelected, or he runs as, the leader of the opposition if it's Biden. And I don't know, the theory that was being pitched to me was there just is no advantage at this point trying to manage Florida and run for president, which is going to take which is such a full-time job now compared to where it was. And so
what's your prediction on the Senate races then? Do you see Charlie Crist or anybody running against Marco Rubio?
I think you will. I'll finish up on governors and say Nikki's definitely there now. I mean, they have antagonized Nikki Fried so much that it's just, she has no other choice but to run at this point. And so you're going to see a fairly tough race there. I think on the Senate race, I think Rubio talked a little bit about how much he's enjoying the Senate right now, how much he feels close to Trump. I have predicted, I don't think that Rubio will be a senator come January 2023, meaning I think he will end up either losing, not running, or being appointed to something in a Trump reelect administration. But I definitely think you're going to see, I think Stephanie Murphy's going to line up against him. I think that Ted Deutsch is going to line up against him. I think that you will see a bevy of people. Rubio's kind of running against him. Rubio's kind of screwed one way or the other. Either Trump is reelected and he is in a bad situation then because the person who is, it's going to be the third term for president. That's historically a bad thing, even though, obviously Trump has never played to historical norms. Or I think you'll see a resetting of American politics, and people that were close to President Trump will probably get wiped out. And I think Rubio is one of those people that's going to be perceived as an appeaser of Trump if he were to, and would be punished for it if Trump were to lose.
So I mentioned a couple mayors, but I forgot to mention Mayor Curry, Jacksonville. What do you think are his political?
I think the thing with Mayor Curry is I think he's reset himself. I think he was dogged by the scandal around the attempt to sell the private utility up there. I think he has got himself out of that doghouse by, piloting Jacksonville through this crisis. He broke against the governor a little bit early, was not happy with some of the things that the administration had done, especially on transparency things. And then he got back with the governor very quickly. And so I see him, I think the Trump likes him. I think the Trump world likes him.
What other mayors or other leaders do you see on a local level that are rising up like our two mayors here are?
Well, I got another thing for you. I'm going to throw this one out there. And, I think I want to put a blog post together about it, but why not a petition? Why not a ballot initiative to give Kreisman a third term? I think that, that we're going to be in this crisis deep into 2021. And I think we need a steady hand from 2021 to 2023 or 2024. It's going to take so long to dig out of just the debt levels that we're going through here. We've seen that he's piloted the city very well over the last 6 years. And I'm not the biggest Rick Kreisman fan historically, but maybe there's a case for him Bloomberging in St. Petersburg. He's a young guy. He doesn't really have any other options. He can't run against Charlie Crist per se. I don't see him running for the county commission. I don't see him, trying to run for the state senate, in Jeff Brandis' seat in 2022. Darden Rice and Ken Welch are two very capable politicians. I don't think that either one of them unite the community as much. I think both of them have some drawbacks in terms of uniting St. Petersburg at a time that we're going to be united. I just wonder if Rick Kreisman, if somebody wouldn't want to put $100,000 into collecting the ballots, petitions, especially when you can do it digitally right now, get that on the ballot for March of 2021 when there's municipal races. What's that?
Can it go on this November's ballot?
I don't know if we're going to have enough time to get that done. I think maybe September is kind of the crazy. I don't know if he would have enough time. And then, as you bring up Castor, that's, the sky's the limit with her. But I think that she, would tell you, that this is probably, I think we're seeing how awesome it is to be a Florida mayor, whether it be Buddy Dyer, Carlos Jimenez, Lenny Curry, Rick Kreisman, being one of 435 in Congress. I mean, you really don't do anything. And unless you're going to run for the state Senate or run for the U.S. Senate, your choices are, state Senate, maybe. I can't see somebody who's been a police chief for, decades and then to give this up. So I don't see her giving this up for a statewide bid. I think she's right at home right there. I think some people you could keep eye on is Dave Kerner out of South Florida. He's close to the mayor. To the governor. He's done a really good job. I gotta look at my bench of who's out there, but I don't think you're going to see much until 2022.
Yeah, we'll be watching that carefully. There's another question here. In what ways are you seeing COVID-19 shape Florida's November elections? How do politicians on both sides need to adjust their messaging or campaign strategy?
I mean, it's this is a pandemic. This is a pandemic election. Trump is going to try and make this about China, foreign interference coming in, about how Joe Biden was weak on China. We saw a huge ad buy this week hitting Joe Biden on that. But it's going to be essentially a referendum on Donald Trump. I think people need to think about it this way. All of the Barack Obama legacy, other than Obamacare, is now done. And Trump will, try and make the argument that, that the pandemic was not his fault. But listen, 9/11 wasn't George Bush's fault. The financial recession wasn't Obama's fault. And so I think it's so interesting because I think you have to look at that the great swath of people that are going to be unemployed for long term. I think a lot of the 26 million right now are going to get back employed in the next 3 to 4 months. But we're still going to have millions of people unemployed. We'll have 1 million of them in Florida. Are those people Trump people? Are they Biden people? I think that they're in the middle. And I'm telling you, how do you vote? How do you vote when you're unemployed? And I don't know what the answer is to that. I think Joe Biden has a lot of problems still. I think I think the sexual harassment issue with Reed is going to, continue to dog him for the next month. I think that also, as we saw this week, or we saw yesterday, he's just so bad at the technological stuff. He's bad at the virtual.
Did you hear any insights on what happened yesterday? Why was
it's because they had, it's not something that they had prioritized. Whereas, Donald Trump, for all his warts at this point, they have spent $750 million already. That's insane. And they have built out a campaign that is geared for exactly this kind of situation. It's strong on Facebook. It's strong on, virtual organizing. And I just don't think that Biden is there yet. And so as much as it is a referendum on Donald Trump and what he did here, it's kind of frightening how you look at how people are reacting to the pandemic, where, Republicans are saying they don't believe the death counts. They think that they're under, they think that they're less than what the media is reporting. And you look at what the Democrats are saying, they think it's more than what's happening. And so, the divide here, I've said this once, I'll say it 1,000 times over the next couple of months. The politics post-pandemic are going to be the most vicious that we've ever seen. It's going to be near Civil War-ish at this point. And you're going to see MAGA hats versus people wearing masks. And, you're going to have stay-at-home information workers and urban liberals that are going to come out of this unscathed versus, Mom and Joe six-pack small business owners who will have lost their corner store because the government and China shut them down. And that's what they're going to be told.
What do you think is going to happen with this? What's it called? E-fairness, the idea of making the sellers online pay sales taxes.
First of all, I just want to point out that this virtual background is a shout out to our good friend Mike Griffin and his son Maverick.
Somebody asked, by the way, if they could have a drink every time the backgrounds change. So
that would be good, wouldn't it? They would. There's an argument right now that people are making, which is, every time you're buying stuff on Amazon, you're still basically not getting taxed. And you're especially not being taxed with all of the other less sophisticated e-commerce that's going on right now. Like, just think about all the Venmo transfers that are happening right now for services and buying things right now. I mean, Venmo, Cash App, that whole market, those things are exploding right now, and none of that is being taxed. And so I think you're going to continue to see the retailers, and, nobody, you want to talk about winners and losers, nobody got screwed here more than retailers. The idea that Walmart and Target got to stay open and sell tires and stereos while, the corner store closed, and Walmart and Target only got to stay open because they sell groceries. we really picked winners and losers in that situation. And there's going to be a lot of small business owners that don't forget that. And so it is a very much a policy fight and a discussion that we need to have.
Somebody asked, are you worried about, or why are you worried about Biden's sexual harassment accusations, but not the 20 plus against the president?
I think because and I'm not worried about it. Number one, we already know about we know. The Trump issues are baked into the cake. We know that he's a scumbag on those issues, and I've got no other way to describe it. I mean, he's a serial harasser, if not sexual assaulter. And I've said that many of the times before, but, unfortunately, too many Republicans don't think that that's disqualifying. Too many Republican women don't think that that's disqualifying in a disgusting kind of way. That they accept that when they wouldn't accept that same behavior from their husbands and sons. And so as it goes to the accusations made by Miss Reed, I think I just saw a document come out in 1996. It's a question still, unfortunately, it still comes down to whether or not we believe women. And she's going to continue to have to prosecute her case. And that's only going to get worse for Joe Biden. And I just saw a document just pop, a story from a local newspaper in her hometown that's now made it to the national press. In her divorce, she stipulated then that she had been sexually harassed or assaulted by Joe Biden. And so, and the other thing on that is it just exposes, I guess, a level of hypocrisy. Democrats for 3 years, rightly during the Me Too movement, have said, believe women. And we've tried to believe women, or some people instantly have done that. And I know I've embraced it. I think most of the people in the party have embraced it. Well, now we're supposed to believe women, except when it comes to Joe Biden. And it blows apart the whole movement and the whole Me Too argument.
So another question. It seemed, and tell me what your opinion is, but it seemed in the beginning of this whole crisis that just as people during political campaigns were getting partisan information and going to partisan sources, it seems that they did that at the beginning of the crisis and maybe during the crisis. And so, the idea of wearing masks versus not wearing masks, safer at home versus not safer at home, it seems like there are kind of partisan media outlets and partisan sites that are pushing that. As a media owner, how do you deal with that? Do you have both voices, or do you kind of walk in the middle, or how do you deal with that?
So I don't know what's best for all media owners, but I will say, number one, we have gone above and beyond, I think, in delivering not a balanced, like he said, she said approach, but we sounded the alarm on the projections and the economic forecasts. And then we also, cautioned, and I wrote a post, I think like 5 weeks ago, that I think is, I don't think many people wrote this. And I said, what if, Ron DeSantis, pulls off his inside or his straight draw, that he was trying to thread a needle here by not closing the entire state. And yes, he didn't close the beaches as quickly as he did, but he also didn't shut down every business as quickly as he did. Some people fault him for that. I think that was a successful strategy. I think that, and again, I think that, his reopening strategy. Remember 3 weeks ago, we were supposed to be part of some new confederacy with South Carolina and Georgia. We haven't done anything in conjunction with Georgia and so forth. And so while Georgia rushed to open up, we opened up our beaches. Then we opened up our restaurants very cautiously. I think he resisted, his own task force wanted to move quicker. It gave him a little cover to move slower. And so unfortunately, Ron DeSantis has undercut his own message with some communications issues, some transparency issues, and the problem with the unemployment system. But I think he pulled off his draw to the inside straight when it comes to, the numbers don't lie. Even if they're not telling, even if the numbers aren't 100% accurate, we're nowhere near the doomsday scenarios that people had forecasted in terms of death, hospitalizations.
Let me ask you the last question from the floor here. how do you think that this current crisis will affect campaigns in the future? Will door knocking and in-person rallies and in-person fundraisers go away, or will they change?
I think it's going to change dramatically. And I think that, number one, you have to begin with the fact that there's going to be a tremendous cash crunch for campaigns, that they are not going to have anywhere near the money that they thought they were going to have. Challengers are not going to have any money. A $1.5 million campaign is now going to have to be run on $600,000. There's not going to be TV. I think direct mail. I mean, I take my mail and I throw it right into the garbage. I mean, you're just asking for the virus to come in your house. So I think the best bet is to buy digital ads on news websites where people are going to more often than not. I think, though, I really do think the people that are showing how they are contributing to the response, even if it's in a small way. I think about Jason Pizzo, a Democrat down in South Florida. I think about Brandis. I think about Ben Diamond. I see these folks literally having Department of Unemployment applications hand filled in. That's how you're going to win re-election. I really feel like it's going to be very troublesome for any challenger right now.
So we're about to run out of time, and I want to ask you one last question. You've got, at least in your last picture, you had the Disney cruise ship behind you. You're a big fan of Disney, like I am. What do you think is going to happen? They made an announcement about Disney Springs, but will it be months before we'll be able to go back? And when will you go back on a Disney cruise?
All right, so the cruise lines are going to be the last thing that Disney puts back in. I think you're going to see Disney Springs. I think you'll see the hotels, next. I think that, I think you might see like a mid-June opening for the hotels because you control for that. I think you're going to see Disney do some interesting reopening strategies. Like I think you might have some beta testing amongst annual pass holders that, people like you and me that live there, we might get invited to come there for when it's at 25% and see what it's like. And then they may shut down again just to get some testing done. As for the cruise lines, I think like was specifically with Disney, I think that you're going to see, I don't think you're going to see interior cruise lines. You're going to be done with buffets. You're going to be done with the mass gatherings, but there's so much of an investment. I mean, that's $1 billion, that's $1 billion a year business right there. And they got 4 of those ships. I don't think they can let them just sit there. And I from the polling that I've seen, the marketing polling that I've seen, Disney fans at least are excited to get back on the ships. If you opened up Disney World today, there would be 75,000 people there. I mean, that they're just, I don't know what that says about Disney fans or the attraction of Disney, but if you opened up Disney, the place would be packed.
I want to see the new island. I don't know if it's real or not, but the buzz is that it's going to be a pirates themed island in the Bahamas.
From your mouth to, to Mickey Mouse's ears.
Hey, well, thank you so much for coming on today. We could talk to you forever. And thank you for coming on regularly. Any final thoughts?
I think, can I just say, please, continue to stay at home and to be as safe as possible. Go to a restaurant and come back. I think we've still got, if you're looking at the numbers, if you take out New York, America's curve is not flattened yet. And so I still think I'll continue to be in this position. Be safe, stay strong, stay home, stay healthy.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you to your family. And thanks to everybody for watching. We hope to be in person at Café Tampa sometime soon, probably a month or two at least. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, Bill.